Hey ladies and gentlemen, Steven here from Redolessence, and welcome back to another video. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And in today's episode, we're going to be taking a closer look at a fragrance by the company Dua Fragrances, and this is one of their more recent releases, and this one is called Midnight Rendezvous, so make sure to stay tuned. Before I begin the video, I do want to disclose that this product was sent to me for review by the company, but as always, all opinions will remain my own. I'm actually on their press list, so every month I get a bunch of new fragrances, and I always pick my favorite to review. Now, with this particular fragrance, and for those of you who don't know about Dua Fragrances' history, is they are a company that makes original releases along with fragrances that recreate more popular niche or designer fragrances. In the case of this fragrance, they were actually targeting a designer fragrance that came out several years ago. And the reason for this is because the original formulation is long gone. It's very hard to get a hold of, and obviously people are selling it on auction websites for an arm and a leg, and it's something that I would never recommend, especially if you have a product that is on the market that is somewhat comparable to it. Now, I can understand the desire to go out there and purchase the original La Nuit de l'Homme by Yves Saint Laurent, which is what this fragrance is a clone of, because the original, not only did it last a much longer time, but it actually smells differently from some of the more recent iterations of La Nuit de l'Homme. So it's safe to say that it has been reformulated. Now, I know that there was reverse engineering going on in this fragrance, and so of course the perfumer with a team of chemists has attempted to recreate the original, which he managed to source a bottle of online. And so this one I am really excited to talk to you about, because I think it's going to rekindle that nostalgia for a lot of people who owned this fragrance many years ago, and they find the newer iterations to be just a shadow of what the older version used to be. I'm excited to tell you what I get from this smell. Let's start things off with the presentation. So here we have the box. If you've seen one, you've seen them all. It just has the Dua symbol here on the front, and it translates to prayer. The box opens up just like this, and you can see some information on the company on the left and a silhouette in which the bottle rests on the right. Feel free to pause your screen if you'd like to read the entire insert. On the spine of the box, it just has the concentration. It says extrait de parfum. On the back of the box, you just have the ingredients, the size, and the concentration. And the graphic for this fragrance just has a picture of an old school car, and it's called Midnight Rendezvous. And you can also find the name written on the side here. The cap for this fragrance clicks into place very securely. You can pick this one up from the cap. And the distribution on the atomizer is very wide. Let's continue with the smell. Now, as soon as this fragrance opens up, you are going to get quite a hearty cardamom note. And I remember saying this in my original review of La Nuit de l'Homme by Yves Saint Laurent, and I have reviewed that fragrance many years ago. I've actually owned that fragrance for many years, and it also happens to be one of my most complimented fragrances. And I own a very early batch. I don't know if it was among the original formulations, and I don't quite remember which batch this is supposed to be a replica of, but I remember mentioning in my original review that I didn't pick up on a lot of cardamom. Now, if you've ever eaten or consumed a cardamom pod, or you crushed it in your hands and you inhaled the aroma, it's not 100% what you're going to get from this. And obviously, cardamom is a spice and a seasoning that I use in a lot of my foods, and I am of sort of a Mediterranean background, and so my grandparents used to use a lot in their cooking. And this one does have a very realistic smelling cardamom note. Now, it's a little bit powdery, and that's something that I've always attributed to the original La Nuit de l'Homme as well. And despite the fact that it's spicy, there's just this element of sweetness in the base that kind of cuts the spiciness down by a little bit, and so that it's not over intrusive, it's not overwhelming or anything like that. And it also conveys this masculine feel, and I think it has all of the elements and the properties in here that made people fall in love with La Nuit de l'Homme by Yves Saint Laurent in the first place. I think a lot of people consider that fragrance to be masculine, unique, sensual, seductive, and they also just, it has an overall olfactory profile that is distinguished, and I think it has a very likable character about it. In the case of this fragrance, I can see how this is far more potent than the more recent iterations of La Nuit de l'Homme that I have gotten my nose on. And for one, I can say that the ones that I have smelled in Macy's and Nordstrom and all of these other stores that carry Yves Saint Laurent products, it smells great, but I don't think it necessarily has the lasting power that it once used to contain. And I think that in the case of this fragrance especially, being as though it is extrait de parfum strength at 33% concentration, utilizing some of those older ingredients that were found in the original formulations, I think that this is the most bang for your buck, because obviously this is going to be a formula that you can't get your hands on any longer without having to pay an arm and a leg for it. And so I like that, especially for releases like these, it really just does satisfy that niche. And it also makes a very hard to get a hold of bottle, or a very highly sought after bottle, very easy to acquire if you're willing to settle for something that's not necessarily 100% similar, but it actually brings it a long way of the way there. And so I find the similarities between this and the original formulation to be around 90 to 95%. Again, I really don't like putting a number on it, but I do think that this is quite a strong iteration of La Nuit de l'Homme, and inevitably it does trigger and evoke a lot of the same memories, and that's what tells me that they brought it really close to La Nuit de l'Homme. Just the fact that it really just smells like La Nuit de l'Homme, but it's a much more strong and amplified version of the original. Let's finish things off with my overall assessment. Now, first up, I took a look at the uniqueness in the overall smell, and obviously this is a clone, so I can't call this a unique fragrance, but the overall smell for this one is rather pleasant, and obviously I do enjoy the smell of La Nuit de l'Homme. It's a fragrance that I have been wearing for many years now. I'm near done with my bottle, and so I imagine that I will be purchasing a new bottle soon. However, I do have some other flankers of it, and so I will probably wear those in its place before I purchase another version of La Nuit de l'Homme, especially considering the fact that it's been reformulated. In terms of the longevity on this one, I got about 8 to 9 hours, so excellent longevity. The projection on this one was solid for the first 3 hours, and then it didn't become a skin scent up until about that 7-hour mark, so excellent performance with this one. I really have no complaints. In terms of the versatility, I do find this one to be incredibly versatile. I think that this one would work really well in every season except the summer. I think given the price tag, you can wear this one dressed up, dressed down. It will definitely get you noticed if you want to wear it to like a more formal event, but it also has the price tag associated with something that I would prefer to wear on a more casual basis as well. And I do find that this one leans slightly, ever so slightly, into masculine territory, but if you're a woman and you like the smell, please don't let anybody stop you. Go ahead and wear it with ease. And last up, in terms of the presentation, again, as I said earlier, if you've seen one, you've seen them all. I know it is quite minimal, but I think that that's also what allows them to keep costs low. So my final verdict for this fragrance is, if you are seeking the original formulation of La Nuit de l'Homme and you go on eBay or whatever other auction website and you see that they're charging $200-300 for it, just don't do it. I don't think it's worth it. I don't think it's worth spending that much of an inflated price tag on something like that unless there's this irretrievable memory that you think you can get back by spraying the fragrance on or smelling the cap or something like that. I know I've done that with one fragrance in the past, which was Abercrombie & Fitch Woods, and I actually bought an empty bottle on eBay just to see if smelling the cap will bring back some memories, and unfortunately the product had turned, and so whatever aroma was exuding from the cap wasn't very pleasant. But in any case, thank you all so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Sorry for the diatribe towards the end there. If you're new to this channel and you took something of value from this video, I would love it if you could support this channel by subscribing to it. I would really appreciate you for that. And also, please remember to enable notifications by clicking on the bell icon. This way, whenever I do upload future fragrance-related content, it will get delivered straight to your feed. You never need to worry about missing any of my future uploads. Thanks again for watching. I love you all. We'll see you next time. Bye.